Thanks, Dr. Tan, for joining us. You guys do not know, Dr. Tan just stepped down from his MP duties in Clementi, and he was MP for 10 years.
10 years.
10 years, right? And an interesting thing that I saw from your Instagram, you put, I think it's a farewell note. You said season finale.
Yes.
Yeah, so what made you want to have that kind of reference to things? Are you a big TV show guy?
Well, the idea kind of came about because, you got seasons of life. And in each season of life, you might be serving in different ways, contributing in different ways. Yeah. And 10 years, I guess, felt like a season. And also, some of the videos before that, we were telling the stories of Clementi residents. We had a video series, our Clementi stories, and each video telling a story of a different group of residents or people with a connection to Clementi. And it became almost like a season of videos. And so it was almost as if you had a season finale for those video stories that coincided with, I guess, a season finale of 10 years serving in Clementi.
It's almost like 10 seasons of Friends, it's a finale.
Yeah. And then actually the friendships really were what made Clementi so incredibly special as a town.
I see.
And serving there was special because of the friendships.
Okay. So you're not a big movie or TV show guy?
Yeah, I used to a long time ago. And then when I got into... Yeah, I used to be into actually comic books, comic book movies.
Right.
And then when I got into politics, the time and the energy demands are quite all-consuming. I had a lot less time to watch movies.
Right.
But, you try to keep up once in a while.
I see.
So when you chat with Clementi kids and they talk about Pokemon and then you compare notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you collect the cards or something?
I wasn't so much into the cards, but I played Pokemon Go quite a lot.
Pokemon Go.
Yeah, but there are actually aunties in the community whose Pokemon Go level is much higher than mine. I've actually met Clementi aunties who are like level 49, level 50, Yeah, so
good app for them. Good game actually. Yeah,
and they said it keeps them fit because they
walk around,
clock the kilometers and miles.
That's right.
And then I guess TV shows, less time when I was in politics, but sometimes you just randomly follow what's happening. Yeah,
right. So being a comic book fan. Which one is your favorite Marvel? Are you a DC guy?
Well, okay, this is a sensitive question. I think DC they've gone through a number of evolutions.
Yeah.
I think in terms of writers, one writer which really was quite remarkable was Grant Morrison. He really had he did, of course, quite mainstream DC stuff. He did some Justice League and so on. The movies, you can see how they've had challenges adapting.
DC.
Yeah, DC, on the DC side. I think Marvel's done a much better job adapting their material into the cinema format. Certainly the original Marvel Cinematic Universe up till Avengers Endgame. I think after that...
because downhill.
It wasn't quite the same after that, shall we say.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to rediscover it, and now they got Robert Downey Jr. back.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to offend any fans here. Yeah. I do enjoy my movies.
Yeah.
I like to bring my kids to watch all this. But turns out, after Endgame, I think there's... I think the magic is not there anymore. Or it takes too long to...
Yeah, I guess the idea for why Avengers Endgame worked was because it was so systematically built up. Everyone had a character arc.
Yeah.
You look at Robert Downey Jr. in the first Iron Man, he's in a completely different place from Endgame.
That's right.
And likewise, you see Steve Rogers, Captain America. Yeah. He's you can see he's evolved. He started out as the consummate self-sacrificing soldier.
Yeah.
Even if his happiness had to be left behind, he he would leave it behind.
Yeah.
But towards the end, you could see, when he had that chance of happiness and being reunited with Peggy Carter, he jumped at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even Thor, you see him. Thor's a bit more of a complicated story.
Yeah.
He goes through that that very serious. But I guess that was also the phase. I think they had Kenneth Branagh on board with some of the creative input. So so it was an interesting journey. But I think the MCU since then has, as you say, it's not quite the same. But I don't want to offend the Marvel DC people. We don't want a big Marvel DC contest in the comments. So
I mean, I'm not a big comic book fan myself, but I do watch I read Watchmen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it Alan Moore?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And of course, they did revisit to that.
That's right.
More recently.
The TV show. Right.
No, there was the movie.
The movie first.
If I recall, I think it was Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
And
I thought the recent TV show was great.
Yeah, that one I saw clips of it online. I didn't have the time to follow the whole thing, but unfortunately they couldn't carry on the rest of the story.
It was a pity, but I thought it was quite well made actually.
Indeed. And I think that's the advantage of the newer formats, especially with, channels, whether it's Netflix or so on. You can do stories in a way which historically you couldn't quite combine both the cinematic studio elements together with that length of storytelling.
That's right.
Yeah, so on Apple TV, Foundation, for instance, adapting Isaac Asimov, you can see they've been. I mean, the Asimov. Some Asimov fans will say the story's been adapted quite a bit from the originals,
right?
But it's interesting how they've adapted that to the medium as well.
Right. Now that you have more time on your hands,
yes.
Are you watching more? Are you reading more?
Yeah, I think.
Or still working more?
Yeah, I think the work is still there because after the 2020 cabinet reshuffle, I returned to medical practice. During the years in government, 2018 to 2020, I wasn't looking after patients. But I think the big difference now is more time with family, more time to catch up with. You could say reading, and you could say reading more for fun rather than reading to keep up with issues, things that's happening around the world.
So for fun, I assume something fiction.
Yeah, so science fiction. Probably, some of it even just revisiting, old comic books, graphic novels that, haven't had a chance.
What are you reading now?
Well, going back to Watchmen.
Watchmen.
Yeah, which we talked about.
That's brilliant.
And it's just, and also I think looking back also at some of the older Justice League stories. And there's quite a lot of interest now, with the new Superman movie coming out. There's all this debate whether people think the Zack Snyder version of Superman compared to the James Gunn version.
Right. What's your hot take on that?
I think sometimes it depends on the zeitgeist of the time, right? I mean, and also depends on the director. So you can imagine the Zack Snyder Superman was influenced partly by, I imagine, the slightly more postmodern deconstructive aspect that came through from Watchmen, which he did some work on as well.
Yeah.
And so it had a very nitty-gritty element. And of course, that probably was influenced by the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy that came before that. Because if you had a very gritty real Batman, that influences the next phase.
Yes.
But I think after all the developmental challenges that the DC cinematic universe went through, you kind of look at what's happening with the new series, the James Gunn's new team trying to reboot. And I think they're going for a much more optimistic,
fun.
Yeah, more optimistic, more fun. But you can also see the undertones of, like that recent trailer, you can see Superman, Clark wrestling with both aspects of his identity, but maybe in a slightly more optimistic, fun kind of way.
Right. Are you you prefer the fun elements, or you prefer something more gritty, grunge?
I don't know. It's I've kind of I kind of digest both kinds of comic book movies, comic book material. It's you could say it just speaks to different aspects of the human condition. People want to see hope in a movie, in a story. I think they also want to see realism reflected as well.
Right.
And and I think, but in terms of comic book interpretations in movies, I think probably the best one was still, in my view, and maybe just reflects my age, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy.
Yeah, and specifically TDK, I suppose, The Dark Knight.
That was groundbreaking. Yeah. It's a pity what happened to Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just imagine the third movie would have been very different if Heath Ledger had not passed away.
Yeah.
In an untimely way.
Yeah.
But the third movie also, I thought, was a nice way to complete the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was it blew me away, because it's almost like a heist, right? It's a crime heist movie, and then by the way, it's just a superhero thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. There's so much, so many different plot lines going on.
And then I thought what was nice about that trilogy is because unlike comic books where you have to keep on selling a new storyline, a new arc, because the series just continues.
Yeah.
It could tie up the story. You actually see Batman, Bruce Wayne get his happy ending.
Yeah. Let's go back to, we talked a bit about the, I guess, season finale.
Yes.
Let's go to the pilot. How it all started, right?
Yeah.
What made you decide to join politics in 2015?
I think the best way to summarize it is one thing led to another. Years ago, and actually this was nearly 20 years ago, I started out as a MPS, Meet the People session.
Volunteering there.
Yeah. And I remember telling Mothership about this at an interview 10 years ago, which is the person who helped mentor me as a volunteer. The most experienced volunteer was actually Tin Pei Ling.
Oh.
Yeah, so Pei Ling was the experienced volunteer.
Right.
And she was actually very experienced by then because she'd spent years helping out in the community.
I see.
And so she helped show me the ropes to be a MPS volunteer, how to, help residents. And then later on, one thing led to another. I got more involved in community work, went for those, what they call those interviews. Some people call it tea sessions.
Yeah.
And you kind of had a sense it was getting a bit serious. When the number of interviewees gets smaller and the number of people on the panel gets more.
Oh. Yeah. Take us through the experience. Something.
So you have a meet. It starts out where you have a informal meeting.
So it's a group of.
Yeah, there's usually a group of people, and a mix of some ministers and MPs, and you have a chat.
Right.
And then after that, you might go for another session, and then it might be a one-on-one with one of the ministers. And after a while, it's just you and a few ministers. Yeah, so I kind of had the sense this was getting a bit serious at that point.
Right.
And so that was you could say the interview process.
That's right.
And then at the same time, I was getting more plugged in to community work, both in the community and in the PAP, in the party.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2008, I was elected the organizing secretary for the Young PAP. In that era, we had a combined vote of the outgoing and incoming EXCO. So then it was a contested election.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and
even in young PAPs.
Yeah, so the format in those days, you had a contested election. There was a contested election,
right.
And the runner-up, I asked her to be my deputy because that's how we made this. How we wanted to form the strongest possible team.
Right.
I guess another quite, you could say, quite defining and really brought home how precious Singapore is is that around in that year as well, one day there's a letter that shows up in the post. And they say, and it's from this organization called the Interaction Council of former heads of state and former heads of government.
Oh, wow.
And they say, they're holding a youth forum. They want to get young people from all over the world to share views and meet with some of these retired leaders.
Wow.
And they said, oh, your retired leader nominated you, by the way. And then at the bottom of the letter, I still remember, it says, CC copy, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. And at first, I didn't believe it. I mean, this was 2008. And I was thinking, okay, how is this real or not? Zunbo.
Yeah. I mean, you should be shocked.
Yeah. So I was quite shocked. Yeah. And so I asked around and say, is this real or not? And then someone reasonably senior said, yeah, Wu Meng, it's real. So so I went to this youth conference. It was in Stockholm, and we met about 20 young people all over the world. Each one nominated by a former leader, and at the same time, we got to interact with some of these retired leaders as well.
Right.
That year, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew wasn't there. I mean, that was the year Mrs. Lee was not well.
Got it.
So we don't know whether he would have attended had she been in better health. But it was very sobering to, just to see how people looked at Singapore.
Oh, okay.
Both the former leaders of different countries as well as young people from different countries. And it was a real eye-opener and a reminder of how precious Singapore is. And
is there a constant, thread amongst the conversation? Like, oh, Singapore is...
Yeah, they held Singapore in very high regard. And... but at the same time, you could also tell in conversations, they see a young person from Singapore, they're also sizing you up. They ask you, for your views on issues. And so that's also a reminder, I guess, that in every generation, actually everywhere, and not just at the leadership level, but every Singaporean around the world, we have a chance to be representatives for our country, wherever we are, in whatever line of work we're in.
Right. Back to, I guess, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew.
Yes.
When you were shocked and all, but do you find out why he nominated you?
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but the year before, this was 2007, I had been part of a youth dialogue, and it was a very different format, I think, from what had been done in previous years, because Mr. Lee Kuan Yew was there during the dialogue, but instead of the format being, young people asking him questions, he actually preferred for the young people to do presentations to themselves. So it was a group of young Singaporeans, and some of us would do a presentation on how we saw the economy, Singapore's place in the world, different themes. And then to the other young Singaporean attendees. And then there would be a discussion among the younger folks. And he would just watch. At the end, he shared his views. He, did some Q&A. But I thought what was quite remarkable is, you've got someone who's very senior, former prime minister, internationally regarded as a statesman. Yeah. And he, at that age, when he would have been, around approaching his in his 80s. Wanting to just make time to not just to do a Q&A, but to actually just sit down with and watch young people discussing issues and the future of Singapore among themselves. And I thought that was quite remarkable. And when as a young Singaporean. You could say it was a side of the man's leadership approach that you didn't always see, and which actually up till then I hadn't expected.
Right. I mean, yeah, because I'm sure you spent a couple of hours there, listening to.
Yeah, actually, I think it was about 3 hours. He was there for
3 hours. Wow.
He was listening to us for an hour plus, and then nearly 2 hours.
Wow. Yeah. Did you have any, personal interactions with him?
Yeah. So over the years, I mean, he was on the final panel that interviewed me when I was being considered for candidacy.
Yeah.
And over the years, I mean, I had a couple of opportunities to interact more directly with him. So it's these were precious moments, lah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, were you intimidated by the man sometimes?
Yeah, I think I was. I think how to put it? It was just a bit too. I don't know what's the right phrase for it. Maybe too in shock to be intimidated.
Oh wow! Okay.
yeah.
I kind of know that feeling. Yes,
yeah.
I recall. I mean, I didn't speak to him, but I was in MBS. It was just open or something like that. So we were waiting for the lift to go down. And then the lift opened. He was there. He walked out. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I was shocked. We say hi. And he was like quite friendly towards us. So that was quite a special moment for me. I still remember.
Yeah, because you're not expecting it.
Yeah, we're like, what? Yeah. So okay, I just walked out, I guess that was his aura, I suppose. And during that interview, did he grill you?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone gets grilled lah. Yeah, everyone gets grilled. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, which is the way. And I imagine that's the way it is lah.
Yeah, I mean, Liang Enghua spoke about.
Yeah, I saw that video. Yeah.
So I think he was being told off by the man himself. So he felt that I think no choice, no chance really lah, like that, because it was quite a moment for him. He's like, how come your English is like this and all that kind of stuff. But I guess that's his high standards for everyone. Yeah. Oh, that's nice. That's nice to hear. At Mothership, we cover parliament stories, so we watch all the debates, all the parliamentary sittings. We always. I mean, for me especially, I was always waiting for you to say my Clementi residents. I think that's my favorite time. Like, yes. Yeah. Talking about Clementi residents.
It kind of took on a life of its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when it became a theme or a meme.
I wouldn't say it's a meme. I just think that it's something I look forward to because there's Dr. Tan speaking. Yeah.
So I guess for me it happened almost by accident. One day I was in that, sometimes you're getting up to speak and you're thinking of this resident who's really been really unlucky, and someone who might not have access to social media because this may be some uncle or auntie who's not IT savvy.
Yeah.
And they want to get their story heard. And so one day I think I kind of did that, my Clementi resident, and
yes.
Yeah. And then after I put the video out on my social media, my TikTok, some residents started writing in saying, Dr. Tan, we really like that.
Right.
We feel seen and heard. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do more of that.
I guess that's also bringing very local issues up to the national stage.
Yeah.
I think that's what residents want, I think that's something that's being talked about during the GE also, your local issues versus national issues, On one hand, the government, please help me with all the tariffs and all these things. But I still want my estate to be well kept and my MP to be very responsive on the ground. Yeah, let's talk about your Clementi residents also.
Yes.
I think people are generally concerned about local issues, right? And of course, your national stuff being your tariffs, how the government is trying to bring us out of this turbulent time. Of course, the local stuff, just want my estate to be well kept, my MP to be responsive. So, do you think that is your local stuff that you did, especially well, that kind of make you quite popular among your residents? Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, the local stuff is important because these are people's lives. It's people's lived reality.
Yeah.
And in a way, it all connects back to national policy because the implementation of policy is only as good as that last mile. What happens to the end user, to the resident.
Right.
So one thing I talked about many times over the years was there's a quote from a former head of civil service. So Mr. Lim Siong Guan, who was head of civil service, he was quoted as saying, "Implementation is policy." So basically, it's not just how nice the policy paper looks, but what happens on the ground. And there was an angle which I added to kind of a riff on that in some of the last few parliament speeches I did, which is the user experience is implementation. So if it's hard to navigate the policy, hard to navigate it, it's gonna get tricky.
Yeah.
And because Singapore developed economically so quickly over 60 years, you've got seniors who grew up before handphones or smartphones. Some have adapted, but some still find it challenging.
Yeah.
And they're now living in a world with smartphones, cloud computing, generative AI, apps. And so, the implementation becomes so critical. And so sometimes I would raise an issue and take a local issue to make a broader point about policy. How you might change the policy, or even a macro, much more broad point about how you approach the ethos behind a particular sector of policy making.
That was also part of I watched that quite viral AI speech on AI that you made. The larger point is of course, yes, there's AI. You can't undo AI. But we have to be together, and then so that we can move on together, right? Yeah. So I thought that was a nice. I wouldn't say it's a local issue, but I think it's broad enough that everyone is interested. Yeah. What made you want to give that speech?
Yeah. Well, it's that 2024 speech had been incubating for a while. It built on the previous 2023 speech, which was the first one to go internationally viral.
Yeah. I think it was on Reddit or something.
Yeah. So the 2024 one really was on Reddit and quite a few channels. Yeah. And I guess the way I saw it was we are very good at measuring fiscal aspects to policy. And that's important. You have to make sure the budget is balanced. You have to track your dollars and cents with public money and public policy that draws on public money. But at the same time, what is sometimes harder to measure is the social togetherness, social capital, social togetherness. Right. I mean, IPS did some studies a few years ago on social capital, but the point I was making is that we actually need to give social togetherness much more attention. And in a world of digital media, a world of AI, a world that actually makes it harder to connect face-to-face, you almost have to deliberately lean in so that people continue meeting face-to-face and continue connecting.
Right.
Because if you don't have that face-to-face connection with your neighbors, if you're not building that in a world where technology is pulling people further away, then that has very big downstream implications for whether you can hold a country together.
Mm.
And actually, all the challenges we face in this century, whether it's climate change, pandemics, aging population, tech disruption, economic crises from outside, the most fundamental ingredient to pulling through is your social togetherness. If you don't have that, you're splintered, right? We're less than a dot.
Right. So that's almost like the OS must be right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You can have all your best apps, your policy apps, your API, but if the OS is eroded,
it doesn't give you the best UX.
Exactly.
It's so hard to use.
And the people are just not connecting, getting to know each other. And so even little things which I used to talk about were like void decks. So, the Clementi has got old and new blocks. The old blocks have got void decks and the kids play and have fun and people just meet each other. The slab blocks, you walk along the corridor to your neighbor's home, you're going to pass somebody's home.
Yes, right.
But the newer designs, sometimes, if you're living in an alcove, if someone falls down at home and is calling for help, there's no neighbor who will pass by the front door.
That's I lived in those older HDB blocks also, but my BTO then was also a bit different. It used to have that. Yeah, like you said, you can walk past.
That
you can
vibe,
somebody can look at the window. Hey, what are you doing? But now it seems like nobody's opening the door sometimes.
So these are things. Some of it is just the way society changes. People also sometimes being online more. But the deeper point in these speeches was really, if you want to continue having a Singapore where people are close to one another, where there's that sense of togetherness, it doesn't happen by accident. It actually has to be looked at across government and almost at the level where every policy you're consciously asking yourself, does this bring people closer together or does it reduce the togetherness? And sometimes there'll be trade-offs, but unless you're very actively thinking about it, sometimes the risk is that means if you leave it to just by chance, it may mean no one is actually thinking about it.
Your popularity goes both ways, offline and online. So also online, I think recently when just last month when you decided to step down, I think people were like, oh wow, why is he why was he stepping down? Because one of the guys who dare to ask questions, so I think that you got some, I guess, quote unquote street cred on that front. That is I guess cultivated through your parliamentary speeches, but the groundwork is a bit different. How do you really try to connect with your residents?
Well, every MP has you could say has similar and slightly different ways of doing it. So every MP has their Meet the People session, but that's usually once a week. And what's important to realize is the Meet the People session is just one aspect. The young single mother who's working 2 shifts at night is not going to be able to come by an MPS in the evening. The middle-aged gentleman who left his job because both his parents are sick at home and need to be looked after, because he's the caregiver, he's not going to be able to come to an MPS. So you need to have ways to be out there, and every MP, there's home visits. And home visits are especially important because you see folks who can't get out easily, whether because of caregiving responsibilities, whether because they're less mobile or unwell. I think increasingly, of course, there's online engagement. one thing that was quite remarkable during COVID is we had Clementi families reaching out saying, I'm okay, but my neighbor needs help. And so it was people looking out for neighbors and friends in the community. And I think that was an important way to sound the alert. People just, because sometimes when a family is in distress, the friends know first, the neighbors know first.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was different things like that. And of course, when you're at the coffee shop, when you're at the market, there was just, people would come and chit chat with you, lah. But I think I can't speak for other constituencies, but what to me was very important about the Clementi approach was that sense of, what's the phrase? Emotional availability. You could, if a resident was sad, you'd feel sad with them. If a resident wrote in and told you some good news, you would feel like you want to celebrate together. And I think people can see your heart, lah. And then they feel the vibe, and that's kind of what we tried to do these 10 years, lah.
Must be quite a emotional journey for you also.
Yeah, because
happier instance, next one will be a bit sad.
Yeah. And some cases were really could be heartbreaking. One thing we did in Clementi, and this was actually a practice I adopted from hearing how Mr. Loh Tia Kiang of the Workers' Party did it, because during his time he visited funeral wakes, in Hougang, and I felt that being in healthcare, and as someone who walks with fellow Singaporeans in sickness and sometimes in terminal illness, if a resident passed away, I wanted to visit and the family, and so that's kind of what we did as well, and to me, I felt it was important to do that.
I suppose there's guess how the Chinese would say, must be 会做人. I suppose the human aspect of things. You talk about emotions, you talk about being available for people emotionally. And I think that's also being human, I suppose.
But you're right. It can be very emotionally intense.
How do you manage that or regulate that?
My own view was it's the fact that you feel that empathy, that sadness when you're with a Clementi family that's going through a very sad time. That's actually a constructive sign, which it means you're there emotionally, and then you kind of do your best to walk with the family through that.
But I'm sure it also affects you in, I guess, deeper ways also. I mean, you may even bring it back home, maybe.
I think I try not to have too much of that happening, but I think, but to me, it was important to be there for the residents in that way, lah. And actually, on some level, it's also quite special when people let you into their lives and be part of their lives, even in their most challenging moments.
Has it always been a thing? I don't know. Was it difficult to start off, to connect with those residents in the first place when you first entered politics?
I think for every new MP, there's always a learning curve. The learning curve isn't just the skills of how to engage. It's also, when you're in a town for the first time, you're getting to know the terrain. So there's always that learning journey. But it's but often the human stories help help anchor your mental picture of the town. There are kids you meet. Like I remember this Clementi couple, and they decided to invite me to their kids 1 month, the Man Yue. And now the kid has started school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so baby has now gone to school.
Yeah.
And then there's another young family. I remember there was a little boy who was born with some hearing challenges. So he had these cochlear implants, which means you put an implant into the inner ear, and then you have an electronic gadget that helps him to hear.
Right.
So 50 or 100 years ago, he would have not been able to hear at all. But now with technology, he can hear. But because he wears the electronic hearing aid behind his ears, it looks like he's got some gadgets. And I remember meeting him once at a community event, and he was a little bit shy. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have a chat with this little boy. Because sometimes, you see someone who's a bit shy, a bit quiet, you just want to reach out.
Yes.
And I remember we were having a chat, and I think at the time, Iron Man and the Avengers were still pretty popular. And so I said to him, did Tony Stark make that gadget for you? Because it looks like something Tony Stark would have made.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is years later, the family still remembers that.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes you just try to bring a little bit of human connection and moments wherever you go.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful story. I think that gives the boy a bit of a confidence also.
Yeah, and he's so confident now. When I last met him earlier this year, he's tall. He still has his cochlear implants, a bigger one now, but he's playing sport. He feels confident enough in himself to play sports with other teenage boys, and it's just wonderful seeing kids grow and just develop over the years growing up in Clementi. Yeah.
It must be. I don't know how you feel when you kind of read stuff online. Negative comments about MPs. They are far removed. Ivory tower, that kind of stuff. And does it get to you? I'm doing my best here, trying to reach out to as many people as possible.
Well, I think the nature of any town is even if you've visited the same block multiple times, there's always a chance you might not have connected with a family. Sometimes you try different times of the day, and because some people are out different times of the day, different days of the week, but so there's a chance you might not have connected with someone. So it just you hear that, it just motivates you to try harder. And I think the key is you just keep on trying and hope as many people as possible in your constituency get a sense of you, get to see your heart, understand where you're coming from, what you stand for.
I'm sensing this from you. I think your idea of Clementi is almost like a big kampong.
Yeah, it is.
Trying to you help each other. If you, my neighbors need help, that kind of stuff. Which is, people talk about a kampong spirit. But sometimes I feel like it's just talk. People don't open doors and all that kind of stuff. So I think that is quite hard to get by to get nowadays actually.
But I think sometimes we just do our best to shape the vibe. Sometimes if every one of us just nudges, grows the kampong spirit vibe, then it becomes more and more of a self-sustaining thing. And so sometimes that's why on social media I would put out stories about neighbors helping neighbors, friends helping friends in Clementi. Because sometimes all it takes is a story and someone says, yeah, that could be me helping my neighbor. So that's why we had that video series that came out earlier this year. Just stories of inspiring Clementi people. So, for example, there's a young father in one of our new Clementi precincts, and in his younger days, he had to have an amputation. So, and he later on went on to be a para-athlete.
Oh wow!
And one day, there's a fire in his neighbor's house, and he decided to help his neighbor. Despite having a young family of his own, would be understandably concerned for his own safety, he went to help his neighbor.
Oh.
And and I felt it was a story that we wanted to get out there because every story has the potential to inspire. And then after a while you get more stories of inspiration, and after a while the community hopefully inspires itself even further.
Right. Yeah, I would you say that that kampung spirit is the thing that you will miss the most?
Yeah, I think I'll miss many of the residents are like family. So yeah, I'll miss that. But every MP, has to move on at some point. No one is MP forever.
Right.
Yeah, and so yeah, but I will miss that part of it, because it became almost like you're just catching up with kawan. And I one of the points I used to make is in Clementi we're very kepo, the good kind of kepo,
right,
where everyone just wants to get to know what's happening in each other's lives.
Right. I guess why did you choose to retire from politics?
Well, the kids are still young. So my elder daughter, she was about 3.5 years old when I first entered politics. So she just about remembers what life was like before I became an MP.
Okay.
But, she was very young back then.
Yeah.
My younger daughter was born while I was an MP.
Right.
And so she hasn't known a time when daddy was not busy like the way I was.
Yeah.
And they're also at an age, I guess, where they are much more aware when you're not around. And they'll also let you know if they feel you're not around.
All right. How did they?
Yeah. So they
tell you.
Sometimes they don't tell you till later. So my elder daughter, so she was in primary school when I was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Trade and Industry, and I was doing a lot of official overseas trips, to speak up for Singapore, to try and chill businesses, to bring jobs to Singaporeans. And one day after I had done, after I was done with being a political office holder, so not having to do official trips anymore, she said, Daddy, last time when you went for these work trips, I would cry. But I didn't want you to see me cry, because then you might feel bad about going there to try and fight for jobs to come to Singapore for Singaporeans.
They must be.
Yeah, and you hear that, and it just so it's so they're still young, and I think that was a major factor lah. And that's why and I guess also when you're when you're in politics, even when you're having downtime, at the back of your mind, you're always wondering, are things okay in the town? Is there something that you need to settle, that you might need to look into a bit more? So they can also sense, I think, when you're not completely there in the moment. Yeah, so that's why anyone who puts themselves forward to run for election, regardless of whichever political party you're from, I think anyone who enters politics, regardless of party, I think really deserves our respect as Singaporeans.
So I don't know, your successor, Mr. David Ho.
Yes.
Yeah, must be. I don't know. Any tips for him running Clementi?
Yeah, so I remember we had a chat before he was gonna speak at the Fullerton rally. Yeah, so and I was just very, very proud that he was chosen to be part of the Fullerton downtown rally lineup. And so I just said to him, David, let them see your heart. Yeah, and I think, and sometimes that's the key thing. Let people see your heart.
Right. Your 10 years in politics, do you feel that you had accomplished what you set out to do?
Well, there's always there's always more things to do. That's you could say the work is always unfinished.
Yeah.
But you just do the best you can while you're there. And if people asked me how I'd want to be remembered, I guess it's he tried his best, he put all his heart into it, and hopefully that was enough.
Yeah, as you step down from politics, do you have any regrets or what ifs, over the 10 years?
Well, there's always sometimes you ask, are there things you could have done differently? But I guess, you do the best you can with the information and resources you have available at the time. Yeah, but you just try to just look forward. Yeah, if you look at my second term, could I have been able to speak up the way I did in my second term without the experience of the first term or the experience of having been inside government? So in a sense, the experiences from before were necessary for me to be able to do what I did for my residents in the second term. So, sometimes you just can't take these things in isolation.
And that's when you had your own, my Clementi residence. I think that's your hallmark, actually. I think we all miss that very much. Yeah, where we cover our parliamentary stuff. Okay. Yeah. Any plans for the future?
Yeah, well, since the 2020 cabinet reshuffle, I've been back in healthcare, and I think the main difference now, having left political service as an MP, is more time with the kids, and I think right now that's the key priority.
Right.
Yeah. So that I've got two little girls, so I think I'm very keen to have more time with daddy.
Right. More trips maybe.
Well, I think just hang out, chit chat, chillax,
watch movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. I just want to close off this podcast. I by asking you this, maybe you could give almost like a goodbye message to your Clementi residents. What thing would you say to them?
I guess that's it's something that's hard to find the words for, but I was just thinking back to the last rally we did, where we the team was very kind. They invited me to come back for our last rally, and there was this something, I think, looking back, there was something I said in the moment, which is, when we know each other's hearts, there's just something very special about that, and when we know how much we love one another, how hard we will fight for each other, there's something special about that too. And I guess to my Clementi residents, what I would say is, just a big thank you for taking a chance on me 10 years ago. A big thank you for 10 years of friendship, of getting to know each other, and thank you for your friendship and memories. And let's stay friends. Let's keep in touch.
Right.
Yeah.
You hang out at Clementi once in a while too.
Yeah. There's a lot of good food there. There's so much good food in Clementi.
Really?
Yeah. There's and some hidden gems.
Oh, hidden gems.
Yeah.
Tell me one.
So some people think there's only one hawker center in Clementi. Actually, there's two. So there's one
that
the one at Central.
Central, yes.
Yeah, just behind the Clementi Mall. Yep. There's a smaller one on Clementi Avenue too. The 353 Hawker Center. And that has there's a makcik who runs a little stall at the corner. And this nenek has her own Instagram.
Oh, wow.
She has an Instagram, and she will post updates on it from time to time. And some of the best mee soto.
Oh, really?
Very concentrated.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very, very shook. And then along the same row, there's a stall that does wonderful prata. Yeah, and it's got that nice fluffy yet substantial texture. I mean, you can't quite put it into words lah, but when you taste it, it's shook lah. Yeah, right. So that's it's a hidden gem, and there are a number of other hidden gems among the coffee shops. And I've had residents telling me, Dr. Tan, we hope this stall will not get a Michelin star, because once that happens, there'll be huge crowds, and then so it's very interesting, like hearing all these stories from our residents.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Okay, I think I will.
Yeah, you got to bring your podcast to a hawker center. Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
It'll be fun. I think it'll be nice having mee soto and talking at the same time. Yeah. But thanks for spending time with us, Dr. Tan.
Thank you as well.
Thank you so much. All the best to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This podcast is powered by Audio Technica.